Thank you very much, Gilbert. So without further ado, I let the floor to Nicholas Cullen from the Altij. So it's another, I would say, leading law firm in south of France, which have experience in assisting startups and multinationals. So Nicholas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thanks to the Invest in Toulouse team for inviting me to take part. They do a really great job of working to attract investment in the region and giving practical help to businesses. So to introduce you to our company, so I'm Nicholas Cullen. I'm a partner here in tech and corporate law at Altij, which, as Jean-Claude was saying, is a law firm headquartered in Toulouse, and we work regularly with Invest in Toulouse to help international investors to set up here in southwest France. So that could be with corporate law advice on company structure and creation, assistance with transfers of IP, trademark registration, negotiation of commercial leases, employment law advice when you're hiring people here, data protection if your business involves personal data. So we provide that legal vision, obviously, which you need when you're setting up in a new territory. And Altij has a history with Toulouse. The firm was founded here in 2002. So we're actually going to be celebrating our 20th birthday in May. And I would say that our growth and development as a firm reflects the economic developments of the city and the region in that time. So today, we're working with businesses which are now European leaders in their sectors and which were startups or smaller, maybe family-owned businesses when we started working together. And we work with the main regional investment funds, VC actors in the Southwest to help companies like that grow and scale. And we as a firm have quite a clear identity as a tech firm. So we have a really strong IT, IP, data protection practices, which again is a reflection of the fact that Toulouse as a city and Occitanie as a region have, as well as a strong industrial fabric, this really great research base, which means you have some really exciting tech projects here. Which we've seen with the companies actually and the guys have just presented. And the attractiveness of the region is underlined from our point of view in increasing external investment. And we're more and more being asked for assistance from overseas investors who are either looking at buying businesses here or setting up subsidiaries. That's across different sectors. So I'm going to be really on message here and say that, although when people think of Toulouse, they think immediately of Airbus and the aeronautics sector, and maybe the space industry and satellites, possibly tourism as well. And if it's your thing, the rugby, just as an aside, and we can maybe talk about it in the Q&A, you can talk about the rugby industry in southwest France in the same way that you would associate, say, Liverpool, Manchester with football. It's quite a central thing for the region here. Anyway, my overall point is that the industrial landscape here, not just limited to aero and space, but it cuts across medical, pharma, tech, construction, farming, agro, e-commerce, and that wider fabric of startups, which is why you have VC and growth capital activity here. And I think it's important to say that underlying economic strength is allied to the lifestyle advantages, which means that people want to live here, and that's borne out in those population statistics that we looked at earlier. Toulouse is one of France's fastest growing cities over the last 10 years. There's these geographical advantages. You're halfway between the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, so there's these nice weekend getaways to the sea on both sides. Close to the Pyrenees, you can ski very easily in the winter. Obviously the weather is good, and I suppose that personally I'm part of that influx of population into the city. So I've been at Altij for 5 years now, and previously I was at one of the big New York law firms in their Paris office. Prior to that, at a firm in the city of London. And personally speaking, those lifestyle factors were such a big draw in coming here. We had young children, the schools are good here, house prices more reasonable than Paris and London. And at the same time, I was really lucky to find a firm in Altij where there was the opportunity to work on some really fascinating projects with some great clients, be part of this really dynamic region. And we've been able to together really build the profile of the firm nationally within France and internationally. and work with international groups and investors on their projects here in Toulouse.
But maybe, Nicholas, for our United Kingdom friends in the context of the Brexit or the post-Brexit, what would be your pieces of advice on why companies should invest more in Toulouse than in other places?
Okay, good question. I think we have to separate that question out a little bit and look at the Brexit piece first and handle it with caution, because it's early days. And then as regards the advantages of Toulouse as a city, the points I'm going to make would apply regardless of Brexit. But that said, if we start with Brexit, clearly this is an extremely complicated area because as an issue, it affects different sectors in different ways. And so, some businesses are going to be more impacted than others. But if we are going to generalize, then perhaps one immediate consequence of Brexit is increased interest from British businesses in opening a subsidiary in the EU. So, that could be for a variety of reasons. For example, if you provide consulting services in different member states, where previously you did it directly from the UK, you might want to create an EU company to avoid mobility issues, or you might want to set up a warehousing operation in the EU, so you receive consolidated loads from the UK. Or, if you have quite a personal data intensive business, you might want to have a representative in the EU to be an interface with regulators, etc. There could be loads of reasons. And obviously, if that's your choice as a UK company, to create a subsidiary in Europe, then Toulouse is a really great place to do that, with a lot of comparative advantages compared to other places in the EU. So, firstly, it's a major transport hub. I think, that's really important. We're close-ish to the UK, and there's multiple flights every day to London and other airports in Britain. Geographically, it's close to Spain, and it's kind of at a midpoint between Paris, Barcelona, Bordeaux, Marseille, so there are these logistical advantages just geographically. Secondly, if you work in certain sectors, including aeronautics and space, obviously, then the European ecosystem is here essentially. And thirdly, and I'm thinking from a UK perspective here, there are these long-standing cultural ties between the region and the UK, which we've already mentioned. There are lots of Brits who have second homes around here. And then with that, there's the certain infrastructure and cosmopolitanism, which makes it a welcoming place for the British. There's the international school in Toulouse, which Craig mentioned, and also English-speaking service providers, law firms, accountants, insurers, and obviously that makes the company creation process reasonably painless. And finally, there are potential funding advantages depending on your sector. So that could be through the region, grants and things from the Occitanie region. It could be through the French National Investment Bank, BPI France, and potentially through tax breaks for research, which exists and could be quite interesting for certain companies depending on your sector. And then when you take all that into account, Toulouse is really potentially among the most attractive places in the EU for a UK business to invest.
Thank you, Craig. It's true that be it from the academies, the research centers, or the industries, there are so many connections on all countries in the world. But now to jump on another point, maybe for Nicholas, this question. The French administration is sometimes famous. I don't know if it's good or not. Could you react to that? An investor from the United Kingdom, how he would feel the French administration?
Well, I think that's a bit of a myth or a stereotype, maybe, which is no longer true, if it ever was. The reality today, I would say, just in my experience, is that France is, broadly speaking, a business-friendly jurisdiction. And maybe more so. I'm a dual qualified lawyer, so I started off my career in the City of London, and then I moved to Paris with my previous firm. So I guess I've been practicing in France for 6-7 years now, and I think that kind of increasingly business friendly environment has kind of come in over the last 6-7 years. And we've seen that with figures for foreign direct investment over the last couple of years, where France has been the leading European destination for foreign direct investment, ahead of the UK and Germany. And the reality on the ground for us as a law firm is that, in our experience, company creation at least is pretty straightforward and navigable for investors from around the world. If you've created a company in the UK, then you shouldn't be that disoriented by the French system. You're going to need articles of association, a company office, which you can get through a domiciliation provider, a bank account, and obviously that's subject to the same KYC and money laundering checks as in the UK. And just from the purely setup and company creation point of view, that's it basically. You register the company. It's pretty quick and reliable. Certainly with the Toulouse trading companies register, once you've sent in your registration documents, assuming everything's in order, then your company will be created in a couple of days or a few days, and then you're away. And obviously you have to do annual filings and payroll, AGMs, but all that stuff is part of running a company in any country. And an advantage of France is that it's a rule of law jurisdiction. You have a stable legal and business environment, which means that you can plan. You can make investment decisions with confidence. And unfortunately, in other parts of Europe, we're seeing the value of that now. But that kind of stability and having a legal framework that we can understand and make decisions based on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, thank you, Nicholas. So what you say is that this reputation of the French administration is a non-deserved reputation.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it depends on. I've worked in the UK and in France, and in the UK you can have issues with tax authorities, HMRC, as you can in France with the administration fiscale. That's kind of the way of the world. And actually there have been more kind of business friendly reforms in the last 5-6 years, in terms of labor law, for example, which give more kind of predictability for businesses. And as we've seen, with the other panelists, there are tax breaks available for R&D. It's not kind of black and white. Well, France is a high tax jurisdiction with very complicated administration, and it's hard to do business there. There are advantages and disadvantages, but by and large, companies are created here and they succeed and they grow. We see that with the panel today.